let me warm up my voice as folks filter in. I know we're a little late, but Bentley was not streaming, so I'm taking the opportunity to just tramp all over his stream. And while I'm thinking about that, I figured that I would tell you a little story in the form of a song because I can never ever play songs without it just crashing my live stream. So, we're going to try it this way as we usually do. And one moment here. Lara, what happened here on your thing? Never mind. I got it. All right, we got internet. You guys hear me, see me? You guys in there? I see Johnny. What is going on? I see Fish and Football. I know we got Scotland in the house. We also got Justin Starbuck. What is up? Assemble! All right, we got folks in here. They're starting to come in. Maybe, probably. We'll look at Fish soon, but I got to tell you a little story, and that is back in the year in 1814, we took a little trip along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi. We took a little bacon and we took a little beans till we caught the bloody British in the town of New Orleans. We fired our guns and the British kept it coming. We fired our guns and the British couldn't go. We fired our once more and the British took to running down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. Oh, wait, America. We looked down the river and we see the British coming. There must have been 100 of them beating on their drums. They stepped so high and their bugles in the air. We stood behind our cotton blues and didn't say a word. We fired our guns till the British kept it coming. We fired our guns and I can't remember the lyrics, guys. Let's see here. Anyways, my point is I was singing that song. And it came to me in these old songs that the lyrics is the British. It's singing about the War of New Orleans, the Battle of 1812, French and Indian War, whatever you want to call it. Not really fish related. Not too many fish related, anyways. Although there is a one tangential fish related story to that war that I know of. But yeah, we powdered, what is that line? The alligator powdered it, we filled up an alligator, powdered his behind, and when we lit the fuse, the creature lost his mind, or something like that, yeah. But anyways, the song, we fired our guns, and the British Captain Cobbin fired our guns, and then we fired once more. There weren't quite as many as there were a minute ago. The British took from Mississippi and they ran to the Gulf of Mexico. Well, now that song doesn't work anymore. So I am writing my congressman to say that I want that song fixed. I don't care if they write new lyrics to the first part or amend the old lyrics or map. But I want to be able to sing my damn Johnny Horton record without having to worry about singing the Gulf of America. But the Gulf of America is actually a better name. I personally enjoy it being called the Gulf of America because the entire rest of the world laughs at the United States. Tell me if this isn't true, Fish and Football. Tell me if this isn't true, that in Europe and most of the world at large, when you say America, yeah, if they know you're talking about the USA, the United States of America, they'll get like, okay, it's an American talking probably. Or if the subject was already on the United States, they'll say, okay, that's America. But for the biggest time, they thought, oh gosh, they're so pig-headed and selfish, and like they think that America is just the US, when as America is all of North and South America. It's the entire new world to most of the world when you talk about it. And so the fact that it got changed, I was like, wow, that's the most woke thing I've ever heard. Like, why are they changing it to the Gulf of America? Like, the Gulf of Mexico was a terrible name. Gulf of the United States wouldn't be a proper name. I mean, maybe like the Caribbean adjacent Gulf would work. But I mean, bing, bang, bong, they nailed it with the Gulf of America. Maybe the Gulf of North America would have been even better. But I mean, there's like couple different gulfs that could have been. I mean, there's the Chesapeake Bay, and there's like the Bay of Biscayne, and then there's like the Hudson's Bay. But my point being that like they thought this was some like, yeah, now America owns it, so take that. And it's the rest of the world's probably shaking their head or scratching their head being like, well, thanks for renaming it to like a more amorphous term that applies to all North American countries and stuff. But anyways, on other news, in fishy news, what is going on, my friends? I saw we had some activity going on. We had some memberships given away. Oh, and of course, it's Johnny, Angry Johnny, my best buddy, Johnny, best. Thank you very kindly. I do appreciate it. Andrew Sharon, thank you. Is it Sharon or Charon or Charon? I don't want to mess it up. Lady Rorschach, it's good to see you. Welcome back. Welcome to membership. Radina, also good to see you too. Cassandra, howdy doody. We got so many members in here. This makes me so happy. Josh S. was given a membership by Johnny Best. Again, thank you, Johnny, buddy. I appreciate it. Johnny was the one tonight who was like, what time are you streaming, buddy? And I was like, well, I'm late. And I thought, okay, well, I don't want to trample over Bentley's time because I was late. I had a doctor appointment and I was supposed to get my leg rewrapped. It gets rewrapped every week. But something may or may not have happened where I slept in and slept through the 8 a.m. Time when they were supposed to wrap my leg. And so I just unwrapped it myself. And now I've got this bag here of like, oh, when Alex has to emergency wrap his leg with gauze and felt. And they use this pretty cool stuff, actually. I'm kind of wondering if we could use it for fish. Where did it go? It's super cool, and I was reading about it in the sense of what it does. It's this stuff here. It's called Purigen or Prisma Promogran Prisma, and so basically, it just looks like a little sponge, but what it is it's cellulose and some sort of proprietary mix. Let's see, what is it? Collagen, silver, what is it? Colloidal silver, and regenerated cellulose, and iron-bound silver. So basically, it's sterile. It's sterile is what it is, and I swipe these whenever I go whenever I go to the hospital and have to get my stuff changed out. They use this much on my wound. Actually, they use half of what's missing there, and they throw the rest away. And this package is like $200 or $300, medically speaking. But what it is it's a matrix. It just is like a sponge, but you can cut it up, and it has collagen in it. It has the building blocks for new tissue growth. For a tissue, like a deep wound that needs granulated tissue to grow. So you can shove it in a bad wound, and it literally encourages fat, muscle, or just like amorphic tissue, just whatever you want to call it, like meat, human meat. But it's actually been used in other animals. How much does it cost to make? Like $1. Like it costs nothing to make, basically. The collagen is the most expensive part, and the fact that the collagen is actually probably keeping it sterile is the most expensive part. But colloidal silver and collagen are dirt cheap, like if you have it in mass, if you already have sourced that. But anyways, yeah, so you get that stuff. And I've been putting it, and you get that stuff and you put it in a wound, and it works. Like your skin grows into it, which is kind of gross. And then you grow a skin over that. And ideally, what they do is they let that skin heal over it for about a week. And then they scrape off that skin, which sounds gross. But then whatever filled in, it helps fill in like puncture wounds or big chunks for like skin grafting, where they've like lost, where you've lost like a chunk of tissue. Like if you crashed your motorcycle and you like got really bad road rash, like this is the stuff that they would like pack the wounds with, and then they'd wait for the skin graft. They'd place the skin graft over it, and it is basically a matrix for your tissue to grow over. So it's cool stuff. And like I said, you can't just buy it; it's prescription. But I'm able to snag it every time I go in because they just throw it away and they're like, "Sure, you can have it." Um, but I'm thinking like, will this work in a like a fish with hole in the head or something? Like while it's still fresh, could you put that in there and then maybe put a little bit of misotracin or Vaseline over it? I don't know. So I'm waiting to see next time I see like a big waru or like some hefty fish, if they have hole in the head like that. Um, yeah. Um, so anyhow, they have developed something similar as well for bone, and it's I can't remember what it's called, the bone one, but it's like actually a it's made out of coral is what they did the first generation. I mean, they used to use cadaver bone, but even for my teeth, which are still awaiting transplant, so the bottom have had transplant, and what they are in is my actual gum. But if I had lost more gum tissue, luckily I have a big old like North European jaw that has a lot of like room to flap skull wise. But if I didn't, and a lot of people, yeah, that's interesting, Radina. You're talking about horses, how they grow the proud flesh, just scarring the, and that's exactly what like in darker complexion humans, like African Americans, Polynesians, Papua New Guineans, Australasian folks from like Aboriginal places, they have a propensity to keloid up really harshly. And part of what we lost, the different culture or ethnic groups that went up into the northern climates, is that ability to keloid up in our skin. Now, it does happen to some people, and some fair complexion people, Asian or Northern European or Inuit or Yupik or Eskimo or whatever group it is, they have still a propensity to keloid, and it is a bright, like purpley pink, like raised, odd scar tissue. But yeah, no green screen yet. No, the green screen. The thing is, I have the green screen. I just don't know how to work it. So I've been playing. I played with it once, and the thing is, like, I need this software to cue it in, and I can do that with StreamYard. But the only thing that I would have to loop is like a background of fish, and to be honest, I just haven't done that yet. Maybe it's better to do that than to just wander around. But today I figured I'd stop making you guys look at me, and I would actually set up and we could look at the fish while I feed the reed tetras, which are such an underrated fish that I just love. And so I figured, like, here, I'll set y'all up while I read chat here for a minute. Let me get some food, and we can just take a look. Oh, there's some water stains. While we feed these guys, because they're super cool. We'll zoom in too. So, hey, Asha, thank you so much for having 46 months of supporting the channel. You are incredible. I mean, I don't know. I can't thank you enough. I don't have the words. But seriously, thank you so very kindly. That is really, really awesome. And you're up there with the most. I mean, that's 4 years of supporting the channel. Also, guys, take a look at this. So here we've got my Laganandra meboldi. Gamer1, what's up? This little fish is another fish I love. This whole tank I've toned way down. And it used to be a tank, that had every fish species you can imagine of Tetra and stuff in it. And I just turned down the energy on the tank quite a bit once everything died when the power went out. Not everything died, but a lot of things died. I have like uh one diamond tetra. I have one imperial uh what do they call it? One imperial lapis tetra. But what I did is I put my stage or generation four of my guppies in here, the blonde ones crossed with the rainbow ones. And they actually have an Endler heritage that's coming out pretty clearly that you can see right now. They've kind of reverted. So see the Endlers have such a blonde gene. So there's one Endler right here that has that snake skin or stripe pattern. But if you look at the ones that don't even express that, the ones that are super plain, like this blonde one right here, that has no red, no blue, no colors, just the yellow, just a little bit of yellow. Same with this one here. And then here is a male that's expressing a little bit of melanin. See that ghostly look? And a little bit of maybe red. Is there even red? No, there's not even red. So that's just iridophore. So there's no color pigments in this fish other than lutein, which is the yellow, the lutinophores. Whereas the females of the next generation, they're normal and they've got their iridophores that are fully expressing, which gives them this silver classic fish color. So you may think that the classic fish color is, I don't know. I don't know what you would think it is, but it's a clear color with silver. That's basically expressing it. Whereas a fish by nature, their tissue is generally clear, which is kind of odd if you think about it. Like if you look at all the tetras, what they have in common here when we look at them is, let me zoom in and we'll stop shaking so much. But when we zoom way in, you see they kind of have a clearness, like their tail has a clearness. That one has some dots on its tail that could be ick. Now that we're super zoomed in, I couldn't see that with my eyes even. But you can see their babies that have been born in this tank. What's interesting, sorry guys. What's interesting, we're zoomed in like 40 times right now. So yeah, see that one has something on its tail. And it looks classically ick, but none of them have been sick and they've all just been chilling in here for a while. So I don't know. But yeah, there's a male right up top that is expressing very, and of course he's swimming all over, but he's expressing very typical Endler genes right there. That male that's moving by right there. He's got orange, he's got melanin, he's got blue iridophores. And remember, blue is not a pigment in fish. And then the female of his generation right there has yellow and black also in her tail. So you can tell they're the same generation. Now, the other cool thing that I want to show you about these raccoon or reed tetras, rather, not raccoon tetras, is what they do when they don't think anybody's watching. So this is crazy, and I hope we can get it on video tonight. This is the big hope for me. What I was trying to capture tonight live is there. See them chasing each other? So this tetra is super fascinating in that when they are in with their co-specifics, so lots of them, and now I went to the store, I bought a bunch more. I used your super chats from last week to get more. And when you add more, guess what happens? They act like they do in nature if they have enough room. And so literally we've got all these reed tetras in here now. Like, what do we have? Like somewhere around 50 almost now. And they're in a 60-gallon tank here doing their thing. But watch what happens with the males. So there's a few males in a group this big that will inevitably rise to the top and challenge the other males. And they will grow fins unlike they ever do on their own. Those two that you just saw in the corner, they're going to be the ones, and they're going to need all that space in the middle there where the guppies are kind of swooping by. They want that space to fight it out. And those equus pencilfish that are right there too, make them feel at home. If they know that if the pencilfish are chilling and just relax like that, if the pencilfish are at an angle and they're close to the surface and they're eating as well as the guppies or really any postciliata or Zophophorus, like any swordfish, molly, any live bear, comes from this region where the reed tetras are from, as do the pencilfish. And those other fish totally let you know that the tank is chill and that there's nothing going on out of sorts. But now, did you see them fight? When they start fighting, what happens is two will come out as leaders. They're doing it right over here too. I wish we had a wider version on the live. But they're doing it to decide who's the toughest male, who's got the biggest dorsal fin here and stuff, and who is going to have access. Of course, as soon as I turn it, they all move right back to the other spot. But who is going to have access to the most females? And who is going to get to, you know, as the females in a morning scatter their eggs together, which male gets to actually try to fertilize, gets first dibs on fertilizing like literally a few thousand eggs. That's what they're working out right now. And it's a pretty big drama in their little world. Who gets to do that? And so what you're seeing right now is mostly males assembling and following each other around, and they're following the strongest male around. They do this every night, and they will decide every night who is the top male. And then amongst the others, they will break off like you're seeing here, these ones in the back, and see how they have that long top dorsal fin, the white spot on it. Any of them with that long dorsal fin are in the running for being top male. And so what they'll do is they'll extend their top dorsal fin and their lower, what we call their anal fin, and they will extend both out so that it looks like they're all puffed up. And then they will spin around looking at each other, and sometimes they'll even bite one another and kind of wrestle back and forth. Meanwhile, all the females, if we look carefully, all the females are down here and over up in here. They're hiding. And you see, none of these have any of those big dorsal features. All the female reed tetras have, right here, if we look at this one, she doesn't have a white color on her dorsal fin. Over here, we can see no big long dorsal feature. They actually have a little bit of blue on their eye is all. And no big fins. See, no big fins, just clear fins. Whereas over here, the males that are out in the open, they've got that fin. Some of them do. Like this one right there at the end of my pinky. He's got it. And he's in the running for top male right here. And every night, all of them with the fin that goes past that little notch on their back tail. So on the tail, right before the tail fin, they've got a white little notch, and that's called the adipose fin. Not all fish have an adipose fin, but most tetras do. And the fish that have the adipose fin, these tetras, here's another male that might be in the running for top right here. And so if we sit back and watch them for a minute, especially if we add food in a minute, they will have to sort out, and they'll go back and forth in a school, and they'll decide who is the top dog, who is the alpha, who is the beta. And in that term, or beta, who is the beta male is still a good thing. Like the top 3 or 4 in a big group is still going to get access to spawning. But right now, the main males are doing that. And the females, for instance, they're hanging out in a group over here, watching sideways. And over here, there's more of them watching in the bushes sideways. And then this group that keeps going back and forth of about maybe 15 or 20 of them, or 15, maybe 10 or 15 of them. Those are the males that are trying to figure out where they stand. And you'll see that they get really frisky. None of this happens if you have a more dominant fish in the tank, though. They won't really do it when you've got big fish. And this is a fish that isn't even an inch long. So it's really, I love watching little fish and seeing that behavior. And people really don't get to see the amazing stuff that goes on, the hierarchy, the fact, like, why does one get to rush to the food and feed before everyone else? Like, why sometimes do they ignore the tetras, and other times, like, the guppies are nipping at the tetras? Like, it all has to do with these intricate roles. And it could be if you're keeping fish from a different biotope than the one that, like, so if these fish, for instance, if we had Asian fish in with this mix, it might throw everything off, and they may be like, there's another fish right in that size area of what fits for this ecosystem. And it may be that that is way different and that that's like an enemy in the wild. So the fact that we have all these little fish together and they actually live together in the Orinoco means that they're functioning at least somewhat as if they would function together in the wild. And I think that's super fun. That's what's so fun about a biotope tank, especially if you can get some size. Because while I think these are a cool fish as a small little fish, they're really cool when you can watch the males doing their thing and spinning around, and they actually turn a glowing blue color. And you'll see here comes one of the males that's in top contention right in the center. And watch, he'll probably come back turning around. There's two more males that are in contention right now. There's another, that's probably our main male that just went off to the left. That's probably who has the winning title at the moment. That one who's now in the center top up by the guppies. Now he's leaving to the bottom. So that one is probably our top one. He has the longest dorsal fin, and it's actually all the way back to his tail when he swims. Now, when he is, oh, they're actually mating too over here. So he just, that same male is hooking up with the female over here. And there's, you can see him right here. The guppy's kind of harshing his little vibe. But he was just tangled up with a lady, and now there's more ladies down here. And he's the male that definitely has shown that he's got the biggest fin. And it's just clear for all of them to see. Now, the females do something similar, and the female with the biggest body, the widest body with the most eggs, is always changing. But she's right here. And there's another one right there. And then the male with the big, long dorsal fin, there he goes. He's right up here. He'll have to fight off any other male that is within close size. And show, there, see him? And the females have to basically decide who showed off better, who's got the bigger fin, who is tougher, who lasted longer. And basically, they'll go at this for hours if you're not, if you're just chilling, doing something else in the room, and you're not making a lot of noise, the TV isn't on, yada, yada. They'll go at this for like 4 or 5 hours. And it's just really fascinating because the females are noting the whole time who had the energy, and just like Johnny's saying, there's two males over here that are doing something interesting too. So these aren't in the running for top males over here. These are the kind of middle of the road males that are hanging out off to this side, and here too by the filter intake. But they still have to decide what their ranking is, so they can decide who gets to go challenge. And so right here, you just saw two males twist and challenge. There's that same male. This male doesn't have as big of a fin, but he's still trying to challenge the other males in the group. And so he may get the guts to go bug this big male up here with the fin that goes all the way back to the tail fin. It's just a daily battle for them. They can never let their guard down. And I just think it's so fascinating that all this goes on with every species of fish, and different behavior, obviously, for every species. But I feel like this is what we should be stoked about when we share aquarium videos, and I want to encourage it more. I know it takes way more time than using stock footage of a bunch of fish crammed in a little cube, but this is why I try to really watch fish for hours and hours before I tell people no, that's a peaceful fish, or yeah, at this many fish you're going to have an issue, or at this many fish you won't, or their aggression spread out amongst other species. You can learn so much by just watching what they do and not intervening and just giving them a fairly natural setup with a few other fish that are in their environment naturally. Or at least that duplicate something in their environment naturally as well. So, like, if it's not the exact, so for instance, we know that there are Poscilia in their environment. There are guppies and endlers in their environment. Over here, we've got a male and a female that were just mating also. I saw eggs drop even. So I don't know what's going on over here. If one of those big males is in the mix, and this is because this is mostly females. See, they don't have the white streamer on the top of their fin, their dorsal fin, but they do have the thicker body, the taller body. And there might be one male over here that's getting to, have access to them. But that's a female, that's a female, that's a female, that's a female. So there's 4 or 5 females right there. And somebody was just in there a minute ago, a male that was spinning around and doing the thing that they do. Okay, here comes another male. And a minute here, I think we'll see him come into view, possibly. There's a male that just went deep into the bushes kind of behind them. And those are the females, though, and they're sitting back debating which one of these males. Like, look at this male. That is the main male for this tank, anyways, or at least tied right here. These 2 males are the big, tough ones. And it's funny to say because they're not even an inch long, but they're the ones that are tough, and they've got that dorsal fin. Not only is it white and long, it goes past their tail fin where it starts, or past their adipose fin, which is that little white notched fin on the back of their tail. That's a female right there. And see, there's 2 males right there just sparring it out. And you can see they flare their fin. Well, they'll flare their fin in the morning even more. And you'll actually see like that fin stay up like you're kind of seeing right now. You'll see that stay up for maybe, I don't know, half an hour sometimes. They're very shy though. I am zoomed in way back from the aquarium so that we don't like startle them. Because you can sit and pull up a chair and watch them, but they are pretty suspicious of even like cameras and stuff, which is very strange to me. Okay, there's the fish that's sick. See, look at the sunken belly. Look at the ick spots. We're going to quarantine that fish for sure because there's something up with this fish right here. And I think it's a weakened immune system for one reason or another, but we'll go put it in a quarantine tank because now that I've been watching, hopefully we won't have to treat the tank for ick or anything like that because that fish is just clearly sick. Hold on, let me go put it in another tank. I will be right back. Alright, so gotta love these little fish doing their thing. The reed tetra, I only had to spend $120 on them to truly get the magic out of them. Now, I'm feeding them this Aquarium Co-op Magic Nano Fry Food that kind of hangs in the water for a little bit. And you guys will get to see what they do when they're feeding. The males get to feed first. See that? The males go in first, then the females. Now the females are starting to kind of make a presence. But that main set of males is the one going totally spastic right up there. How do you know when you have too much mulm? Okay, yeah, we can chat about that. Anyway, so this would be going on, and this did go on when I was at the store. This went on when or in a tank that even wasn't that planted. Look at that one male. He's showing off so much. He's just flexing his size. So how do you know when you have too much mulm? There's no such thing as too much mulm if you're Father Fish or Lucas Bretz. It depends on who you ask. Now, for me, I think you get too much mulm when you start getting algae or you start getting a buildup that basically is beyond the capacity of your snails, your microcrustaceans, your inverts, your worms, And that's going to vary in different aquariums, on the size of the aquarium, on the turnover of your aquarium, of like when you change things out, when you add new critters, yada, yada, yada. I'm just knocking the snails off of there because they'll just eat the food on the leaf, and I'd rather have the fish come and eat that. Maybe we'll get my betta to come out. The betta is still in here. He is the odd one out, being that it is a giant betta. Also, you'll see some of the other odd fish here. We've got the Pethia gellus that'll come and feed every once in a while, which is the little honey five-banded barb right here. And it zips around so fast. All these solo tetras that have no friend, like the diamond tetra that also has no other fish of its species, real lonely. There's also a glass catfish in here. It'll come, yep, there it is. It'll come out and, grab some food or whatever, then kind of zip away again. So that's why when I feed my fish, I like to at least do a couple dumps of floating food, or a dump of food where they're gonna feed, and then a dump of it like on the other end. See, the glass catfish now is right up at the top eating. And I do want to get more glass catfish. They're another one that's a really beautiful fish, but they are a fish that has no room for error in their health, in that their digestive tract is less than 4 or 5 millimeters. It's not even half a centimeter from their mouth to their exit way. And because of that, it doesn't wrap around. They can't store food up. So any amount of food problems, like any parasites or whatever, are going to take them out within a day or two. Whereas other fish have, weeks, sometimes months, that they can deal with most parasites unless they're really weak. But as you can see now, everybody's feeding and doing a good job. Everybody's kind of happy. And eventually I'm going to get the guppy or endler guys out of here and into another tank for them when I have it set up in the other room. But I just wanted to show you guys that this tank, my new plan on this tank is we're going to trim back everything low here, so plants can be a foot tall here. The next foot of the tank is for only big, either out of water plants or big leafy plants like the Ponegeton, the Logonandra, the Barclaya longifolia over here, maybe big crypts over here, and then everything else will be kept short. And then we'll get a new center stone rock. There's a rock right in here, if you guys can see it. But then I want this red, all these Logonandra hybrids that I created by pollinating and cross-pollinating, hybridizing them over the last 3 years. I want all these to have a little bit of immersed tissue in the back of the tank, this stuff here. And I want them to have their bright, colorful, like this red star mixed with the repens, or the super red mixed with the arcuata. I want them to have their forms. So the arcuata, when it comes out of water, look at what it does. So this one is the one that is normally underwater, it looks like needle leaves. But when it comes up and out of water, it gets these long spade leaves. But really, this is that same plant. Not that, but that plant right there. Isn't that wild, the difference? See if we have any more over here. Yeah, so here's some more back up here. See these leaves? They're kind of long. They're kind of spade-like at the crown. But they're more oval. And you can see in the different species here underwater, they get more long and they get to the top. But when they're real underwater, fully aquatic plants, look how needle they are. Look how long and scraggly they are. There's another one. All right, let's hop over to the other tank and let me read some questions while we feed this tank too. This is the Pandaloach tank, and this is Pandaloach, Rasbora het, Kyphit danios are the big danios, and then the little danios are Tinwini danios. And you will probably also see Kalitawa rainbow fish. There's 3 of them in here. And there are a bunch of Amano shrimp and Malawa shrimp in here. Now there are normal panda uh, there are normal panda loaches in here, and there's also the golden panda loach, all from Moonlight Aquatics. All these fish were. And the new panda loach right here, this is it. This is that golden panda loach right there. The new species that has no Latin name is right there. And it is eating the hair algae ever so slowly and off the wall, but it seems to like protein more still, like film, like the Aufux as they're called, which is similar to the original pandas that are right there. Let's see here. Let me get a couple questions. Also, somebody asked if there are any gay fish. You know, not, I don't want to be like, if that question is sincere, the answer is seemingly yes. Seemingly there are some fish. And for instance, how do you diagnose that? Actually, let's have a little talk. I want to have a talk, but we got to do it face to face. So let me answer a couple other questions, and then we'll talk about gay fish in a moment, or if you can call it that, if we can put that title on it, because it is really fascinating. There are a lot of fish. In fact, they're thinking now that around 5 to 10% of fish can actually change from male to female and do at some point in their life. Usually it's very early on, and it is decided on things like temperature or how many males are already in the community or how many females are already in the community. And it's a very survival oriented thing. Like when there are too many males, they know that they'll just be fighting. So they have a hormone reaction, and just like we go through puberty, they're able to basically, due to environmental pressures, go through a transformation that not only do you get what's called sneaker males, or males that hide that they're male, and they may have the right fins, they may have the right parts and organs to be male, but their coloration and their behavior. So, you guys, what we saw earlier, all of this behavior, actually, let's talk about it right now. We can come back to this, but let's talk about it right now because we just saw a great example, and this is something that's near and dear to my heart because it's fascinating to me. Clearly, I'm obsessed with little plain fish and their culture, their behavior. And so, if we're talking in terms of anthropology, boy, I look crazy. Sorry, guys. I got all worked up and sweaty over leaning over the tripod and watching the fish. But let me tell you real quick, the fish do have gender. Now, gender is different than sex, and a lot of people are going to think I'm getting political. I'm not. I'm just telling you, this is what science teaches. Gender is how you present. It includes, but is not limited to, how you are interested in interacting socially. So, like, we would say guys like girls usually, and girls like guys usually. How do they show that? Well, they wear makeup and they dress up in certain ways that they think look attractive. Now, are they doing that to show off to other girls, to show I'm a pretty girl and I have standing in our culture? Or do they do that to literally attract the males? You could argue over all these things, but that is the gender part. The fish swimming around in circles and chasing each other for who has the biggest fin headdress and stuff. That is all hormone and diet based, and it actually is then triggered even more or turned down more based on their environment. So if there's too many fish already and there's not enough food, none of that's going to go on. But if there's a lot of food, tons of space, resources are good, predation is low, they get more and more flamboyant. And so this has been studied extensively in guppies because there's such a colorful fish in the wild. You're able to see that when times are good and predation is low, the fish are bright, bright colors. And the males actually substitute their dietary needs that give them immune support. So things like lycopene, antioxidants, things like vitamin C, collagen, all these things that their body builds up for like elasticity in their skin. They say, screw that, put all of it towards looking like I can flex my fins up real high, make it so that I can shimmy really fast, develop the muscles in the tail section, forget all the other stuff, and all the vitamins, put it towards making the brightest colors you can make, the boldest reds, red in the guppy world, and in most fish, red, yellow, and orange are the colors that are dependent on how many nutrients you were able to forage for. Usually it's in the form of lycopene and carotenoids, or carotenoids as some people say. But literally, this is the astaxanthin. This is the anthocyanin. These are those chemicals that are in fish food that give you brighter fish. Well, in the wild, they're very hard to find in high dosage. So it's usually the males that are most adventurous, that are most outgoing, and are strongest, that get access and wrestle away things like, say, a mayfly falls into the Amazon. All the other fish may have a shot at eating a dragonfly, or not dragonfly, mosquito larva, but maybe there's a big juicy larva that is right at the limit of what a guppy could even fit in its mouth. And the biggest male is going to be the one who goes in, who steals it from the group of 2 or 3 males picking at it, and who eats it and gets that nutrients. So he then builds more and more. Then he has the energy to also spend the calories and time to fight. This is all considered anthropology, but it's also like we study this in people as well. And it's very taboo to talk about some of these things in people because it's hard to study that without saying something like, hey, guys who play football are doing it just to mate. Like that's a silly thing. Like they're having fun, it's an exercise. We say, oh, humans have all these cultural reasons for what they do also. But in fish, and even like simple or lower order, I should say, not simple, but in apes and in other groups of great apes and chimpanzees and orangutans and gorillas, we look at what they do because we think, okay, that's a version that's kind of like humans, but we can take away all that. Like, are they doing it just to get muscles to work out because their doctor told them they have high cholesterol or whatever? Or, are they doing it because their friend Jake is into playing football with the other chimpanzees? Like, no, you can like control for a lot of that, or at least we think we can. But as we study it more and more, we find out that even these really simple animals, things like ants, have roles that either are never changing or they're flexible, and it really depends on what creature we're talking about. And in the case of the question that I don't know if it was asked sincerely, but I really like tackling this because we've talked about this, is are fish gay? The construct in our minds of that would be, do some fish just like the same fish gender? And what I would say is that fish gender is not the same as fish sex. And this is where everyone gets all huffy and thinks people are being political. But let me tell you, they're not. Because sex is the actual organs on the fish. So does that fish have the ability to reproduce as a male? Then it's a male. Does it have the ability to reproduce as a female? Then we say it's expressing as female. Well, what about fish like pea puffers or batis that can switch? The male can become a female. In fact, there are a number of fish now that we know can be female. They can get a clutch of eggs in their belly, then they go through something similar to like an extreme version of puberty where they're flooded with testosterone and all their estrogen drops through the floor. And for 2 weeks, they actually grow gonads, and they are able to fertilize their own babies in their stomach as a male. And then they turn back into females to raise the eggs and have them. So there's also like mollies where there's no sexual males that exist in the whole Amazonian molly species. So fish are really funky, and we're learning that there are more and more and more that do weird things. Some can clone themselves, some can have self-fertilization, Jurassic Park style, some can get a different species. So in the case of a lot of live bears, they can have the eggs in their belly, but there's no males left. And we know at least two species this has occurred in, where the Y chromosome must have caught a virus and died, even though chromosomes are not simple with fish. They're like male and female is not attached to the Y and X chromosome in fish. It's actually, it can jump. So in bettas, here's another interesting thing. We have so inbred bettas that the chromosome that used to be associated in wild beta splendens with males is now also, it's jumped. So sexually born male bettas used to be on the Y, now it's on the S chromosome. And the S chromosome, the T, the S, the R, the Y, and the X are the ones that we kind of look at in fish for where male and female traits are. But over time, it can hop. And as long as that works for the population, as long as they kept on keeping on and there wasn't too bad of a mutation, there are now a bunch of bettas out there because for 1,000 years they've been bred in captivity. This probably happened around 300 years ago, they think. But there are bettas, and there's a famous citation I've talked about in a paper or a video that I did about 3 years ago. But a Chinese, very conservative in the traditional sense of, like there's no such thing as being gay even to this man who was writing this study. There just isn't. It's a deviant behavior, blah blah blah. Like he was someone who just in his mind there's only straight fish and then there's mentally ill fish. Okay, but then he found out when he went to a betta breeding conference. He said, "Okay, I'm supposed to ask this question. How many of you have had male bettas that turned into females?" And he's basically rolling his eyes when he asks in Thailand, in Bangkok. Every single farmer in the room raises their arms at this competition for the best grade bettas. And it turns out that it's very common when you have hundreds and hundreds of males that a few, especially the most beautiful, oddly, the most flamboyant ones, actually flip and become female. They eat so much protein, they have so much extra fat and protein to try to maintain those half moons and those fins and the colors and things that it actually triggers a latent gene that they've found now that allows them to then basically lose their ability to make sperm, and they actually start producing eggs in oviducts that start growing in the side of their body. Super, super interesting from a point of view when you're like very black and white. And I'm not saying it's this way with humans, but I'm just saying the gender and the sex thing and having different words, like what do you call a female betta that used to be the brightest, most colorful male, shining example of a betta? What is that? Is that a he? Or is that a him? Or is that a her? Or is that some other word? So this is why in science, we have expressing is what we'll say. We'll say a male expressing biological female or a post-metamorphic so there's a lot of different words for the specific action that happened. So if it's looks female, but it's still a male, then it just expresses itself that way. And with like guppies, you've probably all seen this. When you get a guppy or a cichlid, any very flamboyant fish where the male is supposed to be the colorful one, the fancy one, if you have enough of them, like 100, 200, you're going to see anywhere from 1 or 2 to like 20% that just don't color up. They don't even try to compete with the fanciest males and the biggest, strong, mean males that could just, clean their clock any day. So they decide to take their caloric energy, basically, biologically, having stressed so much all day that they're going to get beat up. It causes a cortisol steroid buildup. And cortisol is something that dictates stress in humans. It can cause you to gain weight. It can cause you to lose weight. It can cause insomnia. It can do a lot of crazy things. So between adrenaline and testosterone and estrogen, and then the cortisol steroids, and then the endogenous um, so that means it's already in the body kinds of steroids that are cortisol and the what are the word for the weight build anabolic steroids. They all work together in the brain or in an organ like the thyroid. Now fish have a precursor chemical called the luteinizing hormone, and it is a concoction that tells their body what ratio to mix up male or female chemicals. And so a lot of and we have that too, but it's more complicated in humans. It goes to the thyroid and then progesterone, and there's a bunch of other things involved. But in fish, a lot of freshwater fish, what happens is they decide I'm never gonna get as big as these other males in my group. So I'm gonna just sit back and I'm gonna color down, not even gonna try to worry about it. All of a sudden their cortisol levels dropped through the roof after they were sky high. And them being so high meant that they never went through full puberty in the sense of the way they look. They still sexually reproduce as males, but they don't look like them. They look like females, everything but maybe like their gonopodium versus their, like maybe in the case of guppies, they've got the fin, the gonopodium, that is a stick-like fin rather than a triangular fin in the females. Well, they look like a female, except for they have that stick-like elongated fin still. Other than that, no color on the body, big old belly, translucency, and they'll sit back and they'll wait for the males to have mate with the few. They'll sit back and do whatever it is, they'll eat. They're not going to take risks. They're not going to go out and fight other males. They're not going to show by dancing and showing off, oh, look how great I am. I had access to all this food. No, what they do is they run into the mix after that big flamboyant male has basically got the attention of 3 or 4 females. And while he's with one of the females, the other guy comes in and tries to swoop in and literally spray and pray, do a drive-by, and hope his stuff gets with hers and she becomes pregnant. And it works. It works for a good number of them. Now, are their kids going to be subdominant males? No, it doesn't seem like there's any higher or lower amount of that, which is really interesting. But they do know that when the males are too loaded up with testosterone, when they're too colorful and bright and like they've been given artificial amounts, like roided up basically, that they'll actually do things like go dance in front of an Oscar fish if there's one female present at all. Or they've actually found this. So this is why your question, this comes all the way around to are there gay fish? So turns out that the most apex or male, alpha male, if you want to call them that, guppies, we don't use the term alpha male or beta male really anymore. It's an outdated thing. The guy who came up with that with wolves has since discredited it. It's something that only happened in captivity and it's more of a stress response, but that's a whole other topic for another day. But anyways, we'll still say it. The alpha male, the top male, is usually, even in nature, the one in a group of a few fish, of 100 fish, is so stubborn, so only focused on his strategy of being the best, the most colorful, the strongest. He will bully other males out into open water away from the females, and they've seen that the most active males spend 60 to 70% of their time dancing. There's a mating dance that guppies do where they shimmy. If you've owned guppies, you know what I'm talking about. They shimmy in front of the female, and then they kind of like turn, and then they shimmy again, and then they'll go under them and shimmy. And then the female will sometimes turn and shimmy, and they kind of chase each other around. The male will kind of nip at the female, and they do this little dance. Well, that males spend more of their time, the alpha males spend more of their time with other males, without women present at all, without female guppies, sexually female guppies present at all. So they find that the males are actually doing their mating dance for other males and rubbing on other males. And I mean, I can think of some parallels. Maybe it's just like dudes playing football, like they're wrestling with each other. And by doing so, you kind of, it's like, oh, that dude is definitely the strongest. I'll just, we'll call it good in this little game, and we don't have to actually fight. But we all know that's the dude that's gonna get the girl. That's the dude that's gonna like clean our clock if we actually fight. So who knows if that's what they're thinking, if there's any memory or logic to it like that or what, but it seems that that kind of thing is going on. But would you call that gay behavior? That's two men. It's like a guy flirting with another guy and acting out all the ways he would impress a female with no females around and just other men around. Yet you could argue, since it's in the pursuit of women in the long run, that no, that's just a gender behavior. Well, what about the other male that's hanging out with female all day long? He acts like a female. He doesn't fight. He doesn't wrestle. He doesn't hang out with the boys, but he still wants to mate with females. Is that a gender female guppy? That's what we would say. It's a sexual male expressing as a gender female guppy. But there's all sorts of in-betweens and exceptions. And yeah, sparring is what that's called when it's two males in fish. It's called sparring or flaring, depends on what the action is. But it's very interesting because where is the line and who is watching and how we perceive it from our culture is going to be important. If you're somebody raised in Iran where you're told that there are no such thing as gay people and you've been told that your whole life, and you really think that that doesn't happen or it's just like a mental illness or something, and I'm not saying this at all if YouTube's going to try to yeah, I'm going to get censored anyways, whatever, I don't care. Yeah, I'm just saying there's places in Africa and the Middle East where that's thought to be the case. And so it wouldn't even enter your mind to research with that attitude. Yet what if you're in the middle of San Francisco during Pride Week? Maybe it'll cross your mind that, hey, some of this behavior is kind of the stuff we see going on in humans in those communities. And then other people will say, like, you guys are way overthinking this. They're fish. Like, just say what the fish are doing. And I don't know the correct answer, but it does seem like we learn an awful lot when we kind of put our human lens over the animals and then also have a control group that's like, don't read into it, guys. Just tell us what's happening, and kind of look at those two results. But whose cultural lens are we looking through is really important. And so the answer to your question is, I don't know. Are there fish that never mate and that just seem to want to dance with other males? Yeah, there are male guppies that never will take the chance to mate. There are females that will never have eggs. There are females that have eggs, but they never want to mate with the males. In the wild, however, males will generally take and force access, which in human terms sounds real bad. And when you look at the animal kingdom, it's not pretty if you're going to look with terms from humans. But that's called anthropomorphization. And it's when we put our human thoughts and filters and beliefs over the actions of animals. So that was a long little talk, but I think that is a talk I need to have like once a year. Now, I've done videos on, are there trans fish? And yeah, I mean, there's fish that change gender 3 or 4 times. There's fish that change gender due to the temperature when they're young. It's really interesting, all the strategies that have evolved. And what's really more interesting too is some of these genes and things that they do are on genes that are tagged similarly in humans that express certain behaviors. I'm not talking about gay stuff necessarily. I'm talking about things like males who put on a lot of muscle, who tend to be really big and have a certain build. That is an ancient gene, one of the expressions of that. How much testosterone is used is available in a man's body during puberty, that determines how deep your voice is later on, because your vocal cords form during that. And if you take a bunch of estrogen or testosterone after the fact, it also changes your voice structure. So you can say that all those traits are sex traits and gender traits, but are they, at the end of the day, can they reproduce now that they've changed? It's a really hard question to talk about in fish because the answer is yeah, a lot of times they can. A lot of times they're both, or they were always both. Clownfish are all born male, I believe it is. And so, yeah, you project. And yeah, it's exactly projecting. That's what it is. So, what's what? I don't know. But that's the info on fish is they can do a lot of crazy things. Some of them don't need a partner at all. There is a marsh killifish that can live in a log and just have babies. Signal crayfish, that's not a fish, but it's an invertebrate. They can just self-clone themselves. Pretty wild. So yeah, that's the big long answer of that. And I think it's interesting just because, you know, parthenogenesis. Yep, Amy Lou, you got it. You know the talk. There's also there's parthenogenesis, there's panthenogenesis, there's enthogenesis. There's a whole bunch of these terms that are very specific situations. There's also sequential hermaphrodism parthenogenesis, which is the one I was talking about, which is when a fish is born female, it develops eggs that are not fertilized, it turns into a male, it fertilizes its own eggs with with just its female DNA, basically, and then that triggers the eggs to develop. There's also one where the Amazon mollies use female DNA to make the entire baby, and any male from the genus can mate with that female, and this is the craziest one. The genetic material in the sperm that mates with the Amazon molly, who has the egg ready, none of the genetic material is inherited at all. So that molly has a 100% XX if it were humans. They actually have 4 chromosomes. They have a crazy chromosome situation going on too. But they would be XX all from the mother, who is the one individual. Well, usually you need a Y somewhere in there for any of the males to be born. I'm going to step right out here, honey. I'm almost done. That is really fascinating because usually, yeah, you need that. And they don't. They can steal the trigger from a male in the genus, and then that genus, any other swordfish or any other molly, it's not even just the one genus, it's any similar fish, then can fertilize those eggs, and then that female will have those eggs that are all 100% from her, yet she scrambles her own DNA enough that it's not a clone, strictly speaking, it's not a direct copy, it actually is a sexual selection, so it gets the gene pool stirred up. That is so incredibly bonkers, and such a bizarre life will find a way, nature finds a way, for sure. All right, let's see here. What's the term for females who self-fertilize their eggs? It's sequential parthenogenesis or sequential hermaphroditism. But just look up the Amazon molly, and you'll find your start of your trail there. And then when you get into amphibians and other critters, they know there's in Taiwan, there is a frog that has 8 chromosomes involved with sex and gender. Well, sex, strictly speaking, I guess. But, yeah. So there's lots of crazy things to read about if you're interested. And then when you get to, like, nematodes and small creatures, there's stuff like, where the male... Actually, there's a fish where the male embeds and becomes part of the female biologically. And literally his spinal cord fuses with her body in, like, the lanternfish, right? That's bonkers. His head's gone. He is now a part of her. Really wild. Okay, Matthew Plowden, $10 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Put 2 hunks of Mopani, that's a nice driftwood, in a 20 long. Sank right away. Interesting. But dang, the tannins. Tetras and bristlenose seem to like it. Small water changes should help, right? Yep, I would 100% do a little bit of water changes. You know, Mopani has a very specific tannin profile associated with it. And what I would check more importantly is that you have some crushed coral, or that your tap water has a little bit of TDS, a little bit of total dissolved solids, a little bit of KH and GH in it, because you want a buffer to be able to handle that, so that you don't all of a sudden get like really acidic black Coca-Cola water. You want to make sure that you've got that buffer built into your tank. And then if that's still not helping, then just keep changing the water. But if you can, take note now. I mean, it's better to take note before you put the wood in, but take note before and after, or now and after, and don't let it get down below 6.0 or 6. Well, let's say 6.4 for most people. That's an easier rule. Add some crushed coral. It should kind of stall that fall, and then when you do water changes, you'll also be changing it out. You can also put that water, or put that wood in a pot and boil it. If it's fitting in a 20 long, you might be able to fit it in like a big cook pot or a crab pot. Might be able to just throw it in the bathtub for a day or two and let it soak if you got room for it. All of that is yeah. Is it true that fish don't age in a, and thank you for the super chat, buddy. Is it true that fish don't age in a traditional sense? Yes, many fish do not age in a traditional sense, in that each cell in humans, mammals, a lot of creatures, it is duplicated. And in the process of how we copy cells, there is a genetic process that goes on with RNA and DNA. And over time, oxygen destroys that DNA mapping. And so that's why people are always obsessed with antioxidants, among the other damage that it does, along with free radicals in our life. Radiation and oxygen are the two big, like sun radiation, are the two big damaging things. Well, in fish, a lot of them have the ability to make perfect copies 1,000 times, or 100 times, or 1,000,000 times, whereas humans can make maybe 130 with some cells before it starts making really bad copies, and we end up with cancer, or we end up with a cell that's defective. And that's the easy explanation. I hope that makes sense. But there are also jellyfish. There are also trees. There are also like quaking aspen trees that are one organism that's like 315 square miles. No, it's 315 acres, I think. But it's known as Pando. And then there's a grove of trees in South Oregon also that's connected by a mushroom, a honey mushroom, that's one organism. Like you test it and it has the same genetics here as a mile down the road. And it's technically all connected through a web, and it's technically one part can die and another part grows, and it has cells that can perfectly copy itself and only changes its epigenetics, or the way the genes it has express. Not so it can express a gene by like grow more protein, grow more starch, and it can, like, the fungi can decide that, but it can't change those base instructions. So it may be able to adapt to the environment really long term by saying, okay, grow more starch, there's more starch, or we need to store energy as starch or carbohydrates. Or, oh, we need to burn it as protein. Like, burn through that protein, just make protein quickly. And that may help for one part of the forest it's in, even though it's connected to another part of the forest where it needs something different because it's in the shade, or because it's in the sun, or another thing is, whatever is going on. So there's a lot of rabbit holes we covered tonight. So yeah. To add buffer, crushed coral. Yep, crushed coral, cuttlefish bone, crushed eggshells. Boil them for a minute, just because there's a lot of bacteria on eggshells. The way we grow them in mass in large farm settings. If you have local eggs or eggs in your backyard, you don't need to boil them first. But when they're in contamination potentially with like fecal matter of other animals or even chickens themselves, then you want to clean them by boiling the eggs. Let's see here. Alex Heiger, white light is adjustable to add more blue, reds, etc. into the white light. Did you know that? Yeah, some of them. I mean, I know you can turn the blue and the red spectrum up on some models. It depends on the model, the year, and all that. But yeah, it's pretty cool. There's different versions out now where you can change a lot. The newest ones are almost as flexible as like the ADA Planet 3.0 as far as what you can do. And I don't think most people really use the app on the Planet 3.0 in the sense of like, do they really, they might use it to ramp up, ramp down, and to have a timer, but do they really need like 15 or I mean 5,700K at this time of day, and then it's going to go to 7,000K, and then each time of year it changes so that, you know, it changes the season gradually? Maybe somebody's that crazy, but most people are not. Um, all right, you guys. So I am gonna get out of here soon, but I want to thank you all for being with me tonight, for watching the little Tetras. I was gonna show you around in the fish room, and that was part of why I cleaned up, and also what took me so long. But you know, we'll get there another time. On Friday, I think, you know, my wife's leaving town, so I might actually throw in an extra stream on Wednesday or Thursday, tomorrow or the next day. But I think on Friday, we'll be looking at some of the new things that are coming out on some of the vendors online that are selling new fish, because it is basically the turn of the season, the start of spring in the northern hemisphere, the start of fall or the wet season in the southern hemisphere for some places. And so there are different varieties of fish that have now been born for a month or two, and the babies are entering the hobby. And I kind of want to take a look at what's out there and chat with you guys about what you think I should get, what I should be stocking the new tanks I'm setting up with, and stuff like. If there's anything everyone's excited about, that kind of stuff. Queen, is it Kai? I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher that, but Queen Kai, K, man, I'm gonna kill it. I'm so sorry, Queen. Anyways, love and appreciate your content. Proud to say I watch from start to finish. Thank you so much. Uh, no, thank you so much. That is very generous of you, and I so appreciate it. You might have fun with tonight's live stream. If you just got here, we talked about is there such thing as gay fish, and we also watched some really cool behavior that's probably never been documented on YouTube, anyways, of reed tetras showing off for spawning. And they're a tetra that looks very boring to a lot of people. They're very cheap, they're very affordable, and I think they get overlooked. And, you know, I'll do a species spotlight on them again. I think I did one in the past, and I might have delisted it just because it was done when I had a much lower grade camera and stuff. But I do want to cover them again because I just absolutely love that fish, and how they behave is crazy. They're a really active and interesting fish if you have enough of them. Johnny Best says, Alex, I always wonder, just like dogs and cats know their keepers, do fish also? Yeah, that's not crazy. No, fish have been proven to know their keepers. They've shown that some fish know it's feeding time when just one person walks by, and they've shown this like anecdotally in office settings where someone has a betta or some sort of goldfish on their desk, and only when the owner walks up to the desk does the fish swim around and like come to the surface and interact. Whereas anybody else coming by or even coming to sit down, they don't care. They know the voice or the footsteps, maybe. They've even shown, and they've done this with dogs and cats, but they can show that they know the sound of your car engine and can hear it. And in the case of fish, they can feel that rumble really well. So they might hear your car a block away, and they may, in their little fishy brain, have associated that, just like a bell ringing and a fish, you know, getting fed every time the bell rings. They may know your car, they may know your footsteps, your walk, but they definitely do know your face, and that has been proven. And they can keep track, depending on the species, They've found some fish that can keep track of like dozens of faces, and they know like this person feeds me the most, this person feeds me a little, and they actually have a point where they decide, nah, it's not worth dancing and like getting up and moving and like, you know, going to the front of the glass and begging for this person or that person. They're only going to give me 2 granules. Whereas like if any of those faces that give me 4 granules, I'm getting up and I'm going to like, you know, swim around. So it's pretty interesting in that respect. But Johnny, thank you so much for all the memberships, man. You've been just rocking it tonight. Everyone else who's been helping out, thank you so much. I so appreciate all of you. And I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. However, you want to anthropomorphize your fish, it's all good. It makes us all wonder things. And as time goes on, we literally have had people on this channel that said, I don't think fish feel pain or have feelings, that are ichthyologists. And I was blown away that they could have said that. Now they have like very well documented scientific proof that they have very complex nervous systems. They have very complex hormonal systems that are linked to what we would typically call emotions in other complex vertebrates. So no, it's not going to be the same as humans, just as cats and dogs aren't, just as apes aren't, just as mine aren't the same as yours. And it may be very different. It may be very minimal. But there is some level there, and yes, they do feel pain. They do move away from a flame, or you know what, a fish probably doesn't, but they move away from hot water to cold water. And in fact, danios are able to sense within 1/100th of a degree, and they will move to the spot in the tank when they control spots with that accuracy. They'll move at that 1/100th of a degree Celsius. They will take the time and energy to scoot over to being in the, you know, heat that they prefer. Pretty interesting. All right, you guys. I will be back, as I said, and hopefully I'll be dropping some more video. I've got like 3 videos I'm working on, but hopefully we will have a video. I have my 1964 edition of Tropical Fish Hobbyist that is 61 years old this year. And I was going to flip through it because there's some wild stuff in there, like brand new beta. We got a yellow beta. Also, Don Knotts is the host of that magazine, and I want to share that. So I've made the intro, the outro, I've looked through it, I've researched what we're going to talk about. So I got to record that tonight. You know, I figured out how to make like a shadow box so that the glare isn't too bad on the glossy 1964 magazine that's about to fall apart, and also I can flip through it carefully. But beyond all that too, I also have my list of fish that we want to breed. I also have my Australian archaeological video that I've been working on for months, that is basically, it's about the fish traps and fish weirs that were set up in Australia, and that now they believe are 43,000 years old, and had a one pen for one species, another pen for another species. They found all the bones used for over 15,000 years off and on by the same group of people genetically, and that they can prove probably way longer than that altogether. But they also had pens for juveniles, for edible size, and for larger breeding size fish. Like, that's the conclusion they've come to. So that should be a fun one. It's just, I don't want to offend any Aboriginal people or any Australian people or get the info wrong, because it's kind of nuanced. That's very old stuff, and yes, I have an archaeology degree, but that's why I'm all the more cautious with it, in that, like, you can say, yes, the Aboriginals did this, but when you're going back 43,000 years, and they've dated it about 14 ways, so they're really confident in saying that. And it actually is the second oldest, like, site that is multi-dated so confidently in Australia. So it should be fun too. And I should probably consult like a university down in Australia before I release that one. But I've even got like the B-roll of filming fish weirs up here that Native Americans made that are still there if you know where to look. So anyways, Amy Lou, 49 months of support. Man, Amy, you are incredible. You guys who've been here years. You guys have literally been supporting me longer than it takes people to go through college, or high school. So I really appreciate it. But he says, we all know you're the fishy friends, think and feel. Hey, we all know your fishy friends think and feel. Join as a member and help keep Alex's channel going. Thank you so kindly, Amy. I appreciate it. We have a lot of members in here. Makes a big difference to me and to the channel. Really, $1.99 does make a big difference, and it gives you guys access to more stuff too. But I'm gonna probably do more streams to members. So maybe I'll put up a poll on like what we want to talk about, because we could talk about whatever, because they can't demonetize it. Like today's stream won't surprise me if it never appears. Like if the thumbnail never loads later, that wouldn't surprise me, because they'll probably just hit it and say that I talked about fish gender and I talked about whatever trans stuff, even though we're talking about fish and not referring to people. But yeah, so all right, you guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm outside because I was hot. Now I'm cold because it's like 40 degrees or 3 degrees Celsius here. And yeah, I'm cheaper than college at $1.99 a month. I am cheaper than college if you want to get your fish degree. I don't know what that will get you, but I like that slogan. Maybe I'll start doing that. All right, you guys, take care, and I will see you soon. I gotta do something about this crazy hair. All right, you guys, take care. Much love, and I hope your fish are doing well. I hope you're doing even weller. Oh, 1814, we took a little trip around along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi.